today we're doing another behind the dedication video. This time with Love and War, not even Love and War, oh my god. This time with Love from Northanger Parks, Katie. And I'm using the old cover and edition of this book because that's how many of the paperbacks have sold. I'm waiting for more copies from Amazon when I record this. But I'm not going to stop and not do a video just because I don't have the current copy. I'm going to change covers again someday, and these videos will continue to exist. So we're just going to move forward. Anyway, this book is dedicated to my grandparents, both sets. To Nana, Grandpa, Grammy, and Pop-Up, who made my first Disney dreams come true. I miss you all. This was published after my grandfather, Norman, passed away, the last of my living grandparents. He passed away about 2 months before the pandemic started. So this was my pandemic publishing. That I had finished that and gotten it published. It was a big deal during the beginning of the pandemic to have the energy to work on anything. But this dedication, because this book is about a theme park that was deeply inspired by Disney and not Disney because I can't. I wanted to dedicate it to the people who helped make sure I got to Disney when I was a child. My first visit was when I was 5. This was 81-ish. So the park had not been open very long. And there was one park to go to. There was no Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, none of that. It was Magic Kingdom, and you were happy with that. There are plenty of pictures that I've shared on social media of this trip. Me with the characters, me on rides, me with my Mickey ears on. All of it. All of it. I was 5 years old and in heaven. My grandparents, my Nana and Grandpa, my mother's parents, were the ones that came for that trip, probably making it possible for us to go, the 5 of us. Was my mother pregnant with my sister? I don't think so, not yet. But we didn't stay at a hotel. There were just like 2 hotels at that point. There weren't many. And one was the Contemporary, which I fantasized about staying in and then eventually did as an adult. But we stayed at this place called the Tree Houses. And I've written about this in blogs, but I've never really talked about it, and that's probably why. The Tree Houses were, instead of a hotel room or a hotel suite, you sort of had your own home. It wasn't literally in trees. I don't know why they called it the Tree Houses. I don't have enough memories of that trip. But there were multiple rooms and a kitchen and a living space where you could relax. And considering there was only one park and you were there for multiple days, you probably had some downtime. I just don't remember it. For that trip, the characters were limited. There was Mickey, there was Minnie, Goofy, Donald, Daisy, all of it. But I remember seeing the Pinocchio characters and the Robin Hood characters more than anything else. I remember riding my first roller coaster. I had been living, we had just recently moved to, about a year before, to Miami from this little town, Hull, Massachusetts. Hull is on the coast of Boston, not just Massachusetts, but Boston. It is south of it, and it's sort of this little tiny peninsula capey thing you can only get there on one road, and it takes you out. But it had a claim to fame, and that was one of the Massachusetts theme parks, the amusement parks. It was Paragon Park, which was eventually destroyed in the 80s, like 89, 90-ish. And part of it still exists. There's a carousel. They built condos on it. There were these amusement parks littered across Massachusetts. The one in Springfield became a Six Flags. And when I lived in Fitchburg many decades later, there was Wayland Park, which had stayed, I think it had stayed open the longest of those that were demolished. And that one is now condos too. That happened when I was actually living in Fitchburg. It was the next town over. But having grown up next to an amusement park, I knew what to expect. And I wanted to go on a roller coaster. I had wanted to go on the one at Paragon Park so very much. But I was 5, a tall 5. But I was only now just 5. And when we had lived in Hull, I was never going to be tall enough to get on that roller coaster. But I had a dream. And thanks to Disney, I got to ride Space Mountain and Thunder Mountain, which the both remain my favorite roller coasters to this day. There's something about the dark Space Mountain that I just find delightful. Like, for someone who likes to be in control, to know what's coming, to be able to predict what's coming because I have this strategic mind, to not have any control over any of it is just like mind blowing. Like, I give up all control when I sit down on Space Mountain, and I know it. So going on that as my first roller coaster really just cemented it as my favorite roller coaster. And I will always want to go on Space Mountain as many times as I possibly can. In fact, I love the one in Disneyland, and I go on it multiple times now. Because I usually go alone, and that's the best way to go on Space Mountain, is just to go on that single rider line. So my grandparents took us to this trip. We have tons of family pictures. But we didn't go for about 4 or 5 more years after that. Even though we lived in Miami and it's just a 4-hour drive away, it's a lot. It's always been a lot. So we didn't go again until my sister Katie was about 4 or 5. This time we went with some family friends and my father's parents, my Grammy and Pop-Pop. We didn't stay in the park. We stayed, and this was a period where you stayed in Kissimmee. There was like this main drag where they had all the hotels and all the cheap souvenir places and other adventure things. The old Nickelodeon Hotel used to be there. If you look at the Abandoned YouTube channel, which I think I've linked in many places, he does tons of videos about the surrounding Disney abandonment, and how that whole ecosystem changed when Disney started actually putting up discount hotels within the park's property. But we weren't there yet. We were still staying at the Days Inn, the Holiday Inn, the whatever was available and inexpensive. So my father's parents came with us, and there are some pictures of me on this trip. I remember buying a goofy baseball cap that had his teeth and his ears. This was the trip that my sister got pink eye. And it almost ruined the entire trip, but it's pink eye. I'm sure my parents figured out very quickly how to treat it and handle it. But my sister got her own towel because they didn't want the hotel employees touching a towel from a child who had pink eye. So she used that towel for the bulk of her childhood after that. I have very few memories of other Disney trips. We did them periodically as children, every few years or so. The ones that stand out in my mind are one where my father was traveling and in Australia. He used to do these big research projects because he does weather research. They would go to Australia and the South Pacific for weeks at a time. So my mother, when I was a junior or senior in high school, took my sister and me to Disney World, just the 3 of us. And it was one of the best trips we'd ever had. There are some cute pictures of that. Other trips I went on in high school were with the youth group, the BBYO organization, the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization. Our annual conference, because we were a region together in Florida, all of us would converge on Orlando for the winter holidays, so Christmas and Hanukkah. We would have our annual conference. This was the time where it was dead for all the theme parks at Christmas. Nobody went to them for Christmas. So you would just have you could go on anything many, many times. There were very few lines. And every year they take us to a different park. The reason Epcot is because I have a knack for getting hurt or sick in Epcot, or somebody will get hurt or sick. The year we went with Katie where she got pink eye, that was the year Epcot opened. And we went to Epcot. The next time I went was with the BBYO group. We went and had a day, and it was freezing, and this is Florida freezing. Keep in mind, it can drop significantly, especially after the sun goes down in winter. I was walking around in a t-shirt and a flannel, and I got the flu. Boom, like that. This last time I went, when I was researching Northanger Parks, I hurt my hip. I had hip problems the entire time. It was incredibly painful to walk. I am cursed for Epcot. I should avoid Epcot, except that it's so yummy to walk around there. There's so much good food. Who will be the next person to make my Disney dreams come true? It's going to be me because I'm an adult and it's just me and the dog and it's all my disposable income. But now it's my turn to make someone else's dreams come true for Disney. As my sister has her first child, and it's my job to make sure that child does whatever she wants in a Disney theme park. And I'm looking forward to it.